You've been seeing this SGI O2 workstation before already, and you have been seeing that I'm missing some parts like the drive sled, but also here for the power supply this cover piece, which I'm about to install now. Oh no, I broke the latch off. But don't worry, maybe this 3D printed part can save the day. Have you ever fixed an old computer? I did, many times. I'm the vintage collector and these are my stories. I'm happy to present today's episode to you in collaboration with my sponsor PCBWay. I had the opportunity to do already some project with PCBWay in the past, and once more I had been supplied with 3D printed parts to complement my restoration procedure. Now, it was a bit challenging in this case, as I'm honestly telling you, I'm insanely lazy. Lazy in that sense as I didn't want to draw up these parts myself. I had been doing so while working on the trim panel for the Compact Portable 3, so I'm well aware about the effort it takes. And actually, I learned to do the modeling, but still, why do the work myself if I have the chance somebody else may already have done so? And so I ended up looking around on the IRixNet forums, where I found these threads where someone was already working on the 3D printed replacement parts. After me and other people had asked for the models, they were eventually made available. So reason enough to try myself. Still, I had to deal with a specific situation where my laziness was stopped at once. The model for the drive sled was for the small drive bay, and as you can see here, if I would just blindly reproduce this one, I'd end up with a drive sled which is too small on the bottom end. So I took the exact measurements and eventually extended the bezel to the revised dimensions in order to fit the drive bay's new dimensions. You'll find the original STL files as well on the IRixNet forums, though I took the liberty to upload them all, including my revised model, to Thingiverse. Having said that, I asked PCBWay to reproduce me the 3D parts. On the IRixNet forums, I found some pictures of the parts done in what I believe is PLA, and the surface structure does not look too nice. So in dispatching with PCBWay, I went to use different materials as you can see here, resin and PA. The parts arrived quickly, within a week from the day of ordering. The parts are neatly packed with lots of bubble wrap and foam padding in order to not get damaged in transit. Now I know it's still possible to get these parts as original used parts from various sources, be it eBay or resellers like Mashak.com. However, we have to acknowledge the fact that these parts are becoming rare, and even if you get them, they're 30 years old. While I clearly did not intend to break that original PSU cover I got from Mashak.com, it did break because of me imposing maybe a bit too much force and the plastic being too old notwithstanding it. So 3D printing can be a solution, and we're now going to look into how good the parts I got from PCBWay will hold up in comparison to the originals. Let's start with the PSU cover. It's an obvious difference from PLA to PA with a much cleaner look. Still, the structure is different, much more grainy, and the model shows also some differences here as it doesn't sport the embossed information for the PSU ratings. Also, it looks a bit edgy when it comes to these curved structures. I start wondering if I should sand it for a better surface finish or choose a different material next time for a smoother out of the box look. Now, to be honest, I chose PA as I didn't want it to be as rigid as the resin material we're about to see in a few moments. The reason is exactly the kind of flex that is needed for that retention clip I accidentally broke away on the original cover. As we can see here, it bends, which is exactly what it should do. Had I used resin, it would be totally stiff with a high likeliness of also breaking away. but still I don't trust the thing, so I'm thinking about reinforcing it using some foamed plastic. So I take the dimension and cut it to fit, so I can eventually mount it here. I'll use some power glue to attach that small reinforcing piece to the underside. For the original PSU cover, I'll try to glue that broken off clip back into position. Then I'll add some reinforcing piece and have it dry. And here I've got the original drive sled side by side with the reproduction, mainly differing with the front bezel being a bit elongated. It may not look obvious, but this is not PA material but actually resin, which has a much more smoother surface finish. It may become only visible now that I added the locking lever, which has as well that grainy surface structure as the PSU cover. Now this is PA as well, though as it's a mechanical part I chose a fiber reinforced option here as I don't want it to break off. But let's add some grease first to reduce friction. Not that it would necessarily have an influence, as my O2 doesn't have an internal retention mechanism, so when sliding the sled in, the lever is meaningless. You see that when wiggling around, that the sled is loose. But this will all be different as soon as I put a hard drive in, as it will lock itself into the SCA socket, which gives the sled some stability. And as you can see here, it looks very nice and clean, and given the much better surface finish of the resin, it's really hard to tell it apart from the original part. Now I must say that even with the lever being fiber reinforced PA, it fits in quite nicely in an unintrusive way. And this, finally, allows me to install a second hard drive. I'll be initializing it using the fx command that I run with the -x argument, so I get the extended options. Again, for being totally lazy, so I can dispatch the auto command, which would not only create the disk label right away, but also perform a disk exercise to see if that new hard drive is still okay. As you have seen, replacing original trim panels by means of 3D printing technology is well possible, especially in consideration that these parts have become scarce. Again, a big time thank you to my sponsor PCBWay for supporting me on that restoration journey. What do you think about these reproduction parts? And would you agree that nothing beats an original part, but the O2 actually looks quite elegant with that black replacement part as well? Let me know in the comments below. So long, I'm the Vintage Collector and this was my story for today. Next video is due Sunday in a week, and if you can't wait, why don't you check out any of my other videos in the meantime. Thanks for watching and see you again next time.